This is The Master's Garden by yours truly, Ross Boone, for my nephews and nieces. The Master's Garden, Chapter 1, The Shed. The baby animals sat at the edge of the woods and watched the gardener hum as he worked in his garden. A sad but hopeful song. The whole land, not just the garden, was sick, and now it was covered in snow. Pine beetles had killed most of the trees, and kudzu vines had smothered all the rest. The dry bark and decaying branches from the dead trees often fell to the ground, and one whole side of the mountain was still charred from a fire 2 years prior. "What is he doing? Why would anybody cut off parts of the plants he wants to grow?" Neva the cardinal asked, perched on a branch in the spindly underbrush. "They already look like they're almost dead. I don't get it. And he's doing it in the snow. Isn't he cold? I just thought that—" Neva was very good at talking and asking important questions. "He's just shaking the snow off and cutting off the dead leaves, I think," replied Ever, the baby fox tucked into the bush below her. His back foot tapped the dirt, trying to resist darting right over to stick his nose into what the gardener was doing. He was very quick and could jump far, even though he was still just a pup, but it was the very thing he was good at that also got him into trouble sometimes. The gardener was tame and strong. They were wild and small. They didn't understand him or what he did. They just knew he was good, and they watched him from afar. Ever and Neva heard something big pushing through the bushes behind them. They both turned around and were startled as Deacon, the baby bear cub, pushed his nose through the bottom of the bushes and into the conversation. They looked at him. "What?" he said. "Oh, well, Neva wants to know why the gardener cuts off the parts of his plants," Ever the fox asked the bear. "Maybe Jolie knows." Deacon's big bear snout looked towards a couple of bunny ears poking out of a rabbit hole at the edge of the woods, just within earshot. "Oh, hi, Jolie. Why doesn't she come out? Doesn't she like us? Who wouldn't want to play with us?" Neva fluttered up and landed on a new branch where she could see Jolie a little better. "It's okay, guys," Ever the fox defended her. "She's just a little bit shy." Even though Ever was a fox and Jolie was a rabbit, Ever was born very small, and when none of his fox brothers and sisters paid attention to him, Jolie saw him and would come up and play with him. This was before they knew that sometimes in the wild foxes ate bunnies, but now that Ever was a little bigger, he loved her and protected her with his own life. All of them were silent as they watched the gardener, except for Neva, who kept chirping quietly, perplexing herself with interesting questions. "Why are there fences and wires around the garden? Why doesn't he want us to go in? I don't get it." "Let's go over behind the shed. I feel like we could see a little better from over there," Ever said as he backed out of the bushes and snuck through the trees to where the edge of the woods was closest to the old peeling green shed, which stood between the house and the woods. The bear shuffled backwards too, toppled onto his big round back, but then patted his way to the edge with the rest of them. "Do you think it's safe?" chirped Neva. "I think it's kind of safe, but what if he sees us? What's in the shed? What does he use it for?" Ever couldn't hold himself back any more. He darted to the wall of the shed farthest from the master and peeped around it. Neva fluttered over and landed on the roof. Deacon the bear knew he couldn't just go through the clearing, so he whined softly from behind the bushes. The master hadn't seen them. "Wait, how can she just do that?" Neva said, looking at Jolie, who had just popped up from a hole in the middle of the yard, in plain view, but was completely unconcerned, distracted by nibbling at the clover and the grass. "It's not fair. It's just because she's a bunny." "I kind of want to eat those strawberries," said Ever, sniffing the air, eyes glossing over, now really having to keep himself from darting through the open gate by the master. "But I kind of don't want to, because I don't think that he would want me to." "Yet," said an old and unfamiliar female voice from somewhere inside the shed. "He doesn't want you to eat them yet. That's why he has a fence." Ever and Neva looked with surprise between the slats of the shed. An old mother ferret had made a nest behind the tools in the back corner of the shed. She was almost completely hidden. You're, Neva gasped and flapped through the open door of the shed. landing on a handle of a shovel. "You're a tame animal. You live in the house, don't you?" "Yes, little one, but don't think that makes an animal weak, okay?" she said with a tired smile. "Tame animals can be still fiercely tough when they need to be." "Then why don't you look so—" Ever the Fox started to ask but stopped. Neva inserted, "Oh, wait! You're pregnant, aren't you?" "Yes, little one. I'm making a nest because it's almost time for my little kit to be born." Ever sniffed through the boards. Hearing the kindness in her voice, Neva flew to a shelf that held jars right above the ferret. How do you know about the fence and stuff? Can you really talk to him, like they say?" "Yes. After being his pet for 8 years, I understand most of what he says," said the ferret. Ever longingly whispered to himself, "Pet. Does he let you outside? Does he put you in a cage? What is it like to be a tame animal? Can we be tame animals with the master? Can we be his pets and live in the house too?" "Calm, little one. The answers will come in time. Being the master's pet is very sweet. He feeds me and protects me. He holds me and pets me. He lets me ride on his shoulder sometimes when he's doing things around the house. He is so kind, and he wants his land to thrive. But it's hard because parts of his garden, and by that I mean all of his land because he tries to keep it all healthy, parts of it work against themselves." "Why would anything do that?" Ever whispered through the cracks, very concerned. "Many of the animals don't trust him or know him. They think they know better for the garden than he does, or they just do what they want. There are beetles that eat the trees, and the moles burrow under the garden and eat the radishes before they are ripe and kill the plants. Deer jump over the fence and rip the strawberry plants up by the roots. The wolves eat whatever animal they can find, whether it's in the right time or not. They've eaten some of his beloved pet cats. He knows you all live in fear. It makes him so frustrated." Ever the Fox swallowed, now relieved he hadn't tried to eat the strawberries. Deacon's big bare nose lowered sheepishly in the woods. Jolie had stopped chewing and was looking toward their voices. All of them had heard before how their uncles or cousins or sometimes even their parents had broken into the garden when they were hungry because it was just easier than foraging for their own food. "Oh no," Neva exclaimed. "That can't happen. What can little animals like us do? We have to help." "Oh, that's so good to hear you say, little one." The ferret's voice was relieved. "But it will be very hard. It is in the wild spirit not to be tamed." They were quiet. Each of them knew, even in their own hearts, this was true. Eventually, Neva spoke again, now a little slower, more thoughtful. "Can you help us do better? Can you tell us what the master wants us to do?" "Oh, I understand the master, but I do not understand your ways well enough. I do not know what you can do. I have never lived in your world of the wild, but I hope the one I carry in my belly will." All their eyes got large as they listened. "This is why I have come out here. The kit in my belly will be able to speak the master's will to the wild animals. He will be tame, but will know the ways of the wild land. He will tell the wild animals what the master says. He will come and go in the house and know the master's will. He will fight and raise a hillside of animals to keep the master's garden safe and flourishing so there will be food for all. But you will help raise him, perhaps, for he must know the land and the world of the wild, which I do not know. For him to be able to protect his whole land, he'll need to know both the master and the land. That's why I have come, to make a place he can be born out here." "Wow!" Neva gasped what they were all thinking. Do my parents know about this?" Ever whispered. "Maybe they can help." He was feeling the import of it all was very much bigger than him. "Many of them do," the mother ferret replied. "We have been planning it for many years. We've tried to have a baby and failed several times. Some of the animals who long to be tamed know about it, and they plan to be around to protect me on that day." "The mighty ferret!" Jolie the rabbit spoke in realization from the doorway of the shed. "Wait, you're a ferret? Wait, are you the great mother ferret? I thought ferrets had to be at least as big as a dog for them to be as strong as in the stories," Neva exclaimed. "No, child. How could a dog be small enough to fight in the burrows, or nimble enough to climb trees to chase the bad hawks from them? Ferrets are mighty fighters, if you didn't know. We are related to mongooses that fight snakes in India." "Like Rikki Tikki Tavi." Ever was proud he knew this. The mother ferret nodded and smiled. "I can't believe you're the great mother ferret." Neva could not keep her beak shut. "My parents told me all sorts of stories about the mighty ferret they heard would come and save the garden someday. It's today!" "Well, we hope in a week or two," the mother ferret smiled. They saw how old and tired she was. This might be the last chance. There was a silence as it all settled into their imaginations. They had just met the mother of the mighty ferret they were told could save the garden some day. "Why didn't everybody know about you being here today?" asked Ever. "Because it is very sensitive information. If the wrong animals found out about it, like the wolves or the bad badgers in the northern slope tunnels, all could be lost before my little kit could grow big enough to protect it. Be very careful who you tell, because if the wrong people found out where he would be born, they would try to stop it." Ever shivered at the thought of it. They all watched the mother ferret push an old blanket around and tug old tool handles into place to prepare her nest. They all wanted to help the master save his beautiful garden. They wanted to help save his land. Just then they heard a deep pounding on some hollow log in the woods somewhere behind them. They all jumped, startled. Jolie darted back into her hole, her tiny white tail pointing at the sky. "Oh, that's just Deacon," Neva said. "He must have his face stuck in that old stump with the beehive again."